Episode 103 of the Paws Up podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Barral, joined alongside my friend and co-host, Jake Gibson. Jake, triple digits are here, full swing. And we have a very, very special guest today.
That is right. It is none other than Easton Marks, a former pitcher for FIU and now a member of the Colorado Rockies organization, making his way up. Easton, how are you doing, my man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we got to start with this, Easton. You're a kid growing up in Denver. When did you start playing baseball? When did you think this could be something that you can now do as your job?
Yeah, I started playing baseball when I was 4 or 5, and honestly just played it for fun growing up. I was pretty good, but I think it's always been a dream of mine to play professional baseball and to be a big leaguer, hopefully. So I think I had the ability. I was kind of an undersized guy. So I think going into my sophomore year of college, I really had an understanding of, this could be real, and, and it happened to be true. So it's been awesome. It's been a blessing, and it's been super fun. So
just, this takes us to your time in high school. I believe I'm saying this right. Arapahoe High School. You were
Correct.
There at All Centennial League's first team as a senior. Just talk about some of your favorite memories during there and any advice that you got that you still, kind of hold on to this day.
Yeah, I think going to Arapahoe was out of district for me. So it was completely new to me, making new friends. I think that's the beauty in high school baseball as well, is you're just playing with, a bunch of your friends from the community around. So, I think that's what was so special about that, and so much fun. And I think just the hard work that was instilled by Coach Dollahan. He preached that into me, and I think that has helped me and carried me to where I am today, and has helped me do what I do. So, a lot of credit goes to Coach Dollahan, and his word and the impact that he's had on my career.
As you were growing up, by the way, what made you land on pitcher? You obviously during your time in high school, you could hit and you could throw, but why'd you settle on pitcher over anything else?
Yeah, so mainly my whole life I was a hitter. My whole high school career, I played outfield, a little bit of second base. I always had a pretty good arm. So in high school, I could kind of just get on the mound and throw,
Okay.
and it worked. But when I got to college, I was committed as kind of a two-way, but more of a hitter. And second week on campus, they're like, hey, like the quickest way for you to get on the field is to pitch. So for me, I just wanted to play and help the team win in any way possible. So my coach just kind of made the decision for me, to become a pitcher, and from there I've embraced it and loved it, and surrounded my whole life with it. So it's been an adjustment for sure, but it's been awesome.
You mentioned you walked on to the University of Nevada after your time in high school. How did the Wolfpack stand out to you over there in Reno? And I'm wondering how big a deal it may have been for you to be at a college that's not too far away from the state of Colorado. Where you're from?
Yeah, for me, family is very important to me. We have an extensive family history at the University of Nevada. So it's kind of a dream of mine to play there. My grandma still lives there to this day, so it's cool to be around her and to hang out with her. And going to Reno was awesome. I spent a great 2 years there. I learned a lot from the coaches there. For me, I think entering the portal after my sophomore year is just finding a new fit, a better fit, having a fresh start.
Yeah.
And that led me to FIU and Coach Whitson and Coach Witten. And that was, one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life.
Yeah. So, of course, in college ball, there's no need for pitchers to hit anymore, thanks to that DH position Just how much do you miss not being able to hit in games since your time in high school? I mean, a 371 batting average, nothing to scoff at. Do you miss not getting cracks at the bat anymore?
Yeah, I mean, being a pitcher now, most of our job, in the week is shagging BP. So, you see that, every day, and you're like, man, I wish I could get in the cage and take some hacks for sure. I'm not really sure if I still have my stroke though. So, maybe I'll find out here in the off season if I could still hit. So, but yeah, I miss it, but I love pitching. So, it's been a fun adjustment.
Talking about your 2023 season, it was limited action. You were mainly a reliever. Just, talk about that season, and then what made you go from reliever to starter?
Yeah, for me, my freshman year is my first real action in pitching, honestly. And you're getting thrown into the fire at the highest level. And for me, it was, just being young, and with that came a lot of failure. And, I think, from my freshman to sophomore year, I learned a lot, and took my freshman year, things that I learned, and took it into the summer, into my training and stuff. And that's where I, found some of my jumps in velo and stuff, and just confidence in pitching, just because I was so new to it. So I think, and then going into my sophomore year, me as a pitcher, my body, everything was just better, and it kind of gave me that opportunity to start. I still had those ups and downs, pitching, but I'm forever grateful for those ups and downs. I learned a lot from it. I learned a lot about myself and, my resiliency, and also just my love for the game. I think, when you fail and don't have success, it's easy to kind of turn and run. But for me, it was an opportunity to perfect my craft and to work on my process and, just fall in love with that. So, with the failures, I found a lot of great things in it, stuff that I use in my everyday life to this day, and something that I'm really grateful for. So, even though it sucked in the moment.
Yeah. So talk about, that first season starting, you said a couple ups and downs. How was that? And then ultimately, why did you decide to transfer out to Nevada and come to FIU?
Yeah, I think, with the ups and downs, like, I think, my priority on the mound, wasn't to get outs. I think, I was a little fascinated with the radar gun, and my stuff. And for me, I was just so young and just, that's what you see on Twitter. That's what you see on Instagram. And, what really matters is getting outs. So, I think, that season, I walked people, I gave up hits. But, I got to give a lot of credit to my coaches there, for continuing to throw me out there and to give me opportunities to get better and to learn from it. And then after that, I thought for me, I've always lived on the West Coast, being from Colorado. And I thought for me, it was best to just find a new opportunity, something to get out of my comfort zone a little bit, experience something new. And that's when Coach Whitson found me on Twitter. We hopped on a phone call. It was a great call. And from that moment on, it was awesome. So, I made the decision to come to FIU and branch out and move all the way across the country and try something new. So, yeah.
That's putting it lightly too, going all the way from Reno to Miami. That is a long flight. My goodness.
Yes, a long car drive.
What did you drove from Reno to Miami?
My dad, my parents actually drove my car from Arizona to Miami.
Whoa.
It was like a 4-day trip. So
4 days.
yeah. So I'm very thankful for them. That was a lifesaver for me.
Oh man, now we can start talking about FIU. I mean, you mentioned Reno, but overall, what was the sales pitch? How did they recruit you to South Florida? Who were some of the other first members of the team you got to talk to, and what was that whole process like?
Yeah, I think for me, family, as I said earlier, is important to me. And that was important in finding, whatever my next school was. So when I hopped on the call with Coach Whitson, we spent like an hour and a half together on our first call. And for me, like, our relationship really blossomed there. And it just felt like home. The conversation that we had, it wasn't just about baseball. It was about who I was as a person, what I like to do. I think we just also had a lot of connections off the field, on the field. And for me, that's important. I also talked to Coach Witten for a while, and that was the only head coach that I talked to during the recruiting process. And I think that really showed, their interest in me and their belief in me. And then I actually hopped on a call with Jackson Ritchie, who was on the 2024 team, and just talked to him a little bit about the program, what he liked, kind of get a player's feel for it. And then I got on a visit down to FIU, saw Miami, and just the paradise that it is. And it was an easy decision when I got there. So, I think it was just the relationship that I built with the coaches, during the recruiting process that kind of just sold me, as well as just being in South Florida, and how much baseball means to the community, to the city, and to the state. I mean, it's a powerhouse. So, it was an opportunity to branch out and find something different.
Yeah, we just saw record-breaking attendance at Lone Depot Park this past weekend when the Yanks came down and got absolutely destroyed by the Marlins.
Yeah,
just need to throw the Marlins in there for Kev. But as someone from a city that's 5,280 feet above sea level, not to mention having spent time in Reno, what was that the biggest culture shock you experienced when moving down to Miami? Whether it was the culture, the food, the weather, the elevation, or something else?
Yeah, I think just the Latin influence in Miami. It was something that I, was never around, honestly, and something that I loved. I think the first few weeks were a little interesting for me, just kind of finding my place and, learning the ropes. But, I think you learn to love it. You learn to, become closer with your teammates, who have been to, have different backgrounds, have grew up in a different part of the world, and you appreciate that, and you're doing it on a baseball field, which is also super cool. So, I think that was for sure the biggest change for me. Just being from the West Coast, you don't really know how it's going to be until you get down there and you experience it firsthand. But it was something that has been awesome for me. I'm a huge coffee fan, so I lucked out. So getting the Cuban coffee down there has changed my life. So it was a great experience.
Did the elevation make an impact, by the way, at all? Or is it just like not as crazy as people make it out to be?
No, it does. Your stuff is, it's really different. Your off-speed stuff really doesn't move as much as it does at sea level. I think that's also the challenge with pitching, in elevation is, when you're traveling from elevation to sea level teams, it's an adjustment, and that's an adjustment that you have to make before the game, because your stuff's going to move differently, at home versus on the road. So, that's always a challenge. I also think, kids aren't able to hit 75-mile-an-hour home run, exit velo home runs. like they were in Reno. It's just a different game, I think, especially with metal bats. That definitely changes things as well.
Talk about Coach Witten and Coach Whitson, the recruiter, compared to the actual coaches once you actually got here, because everyone talks about it in any sport. It's different from the recruiter to when you actually get it going and during practice or during the season itself.
Yeah. I think Whitson, I think they're both, who they are, as people and as coaches. I think, the intensity on the field's definitely more, just because, you're trying to win ball games. That's what it comes down to. But, them as human beings, great human beings. I think, they bring the vibes every day. Whitson, in the bullpen with the pitching staff, he's going to get on you, but, it's to better you. And that's great. I think, that's something that, for me in the recruiting process was important, was just getting to know them, and being able to connect with them on a deeper level than just, baseball and all that. So I think they're definitely able to connect with you on a personal level, whether it be at the field or, on plane rides or bus trips, whatever it is. I still think they bring, to the table what they said they would do on the initial phone calls.
I want to go back to your official visit. What were your impressions of the facilities, the campus? Probably a lot bigger than Nevada, maybe, hopefully. Just what were your original thoughts on FIU when you first saw it?
Yeah, I honestly thought it was a country club. When you get on campus, just the palm trees, you got a pool, beach volleyball nets everywhere. Just the vibe of the campus was all awesome. I think, it definitely changed, showing up in the summer just because it was so hot. But, I think my initial, thoughts were, this is a beautiful place to call home for, 1 to 2 years. So, Nevada's campus was also, beautiful, but, you're dealing with the elements, you're dealing with snow, walking to class in rain or snow, the cold, you're shoveling out a throwing lane to play catch. I mean, there's just, there's differences between the two. And, at FIU, you're in January, you're wearing shorts, t-shirt, sandals, showing up to the field. So, for me, it was beautiful seeing an all natural surface too. Playing on a lot of turf out west. It just felt like baseball, honestly. So, it was awesome.
You mentioned the elevation going from Nevada to FIU. Talk about what you and Carson worked on throughout the offseason leading up to your first year at FIU. You were walking a lot of guys at Nevada. That went pretty down here at FIU, just looking at the length of the season. Just what were you guys working on? How much of it was also just adjusting to, pitching at elevation?
Yeah, I think, Whitson and I talked about this a lot, especially going into the fall. And a lot of it was just about believing in myself and my ability. I think, transitioning from hitting to pitching, comes with some confidence, wavering in confidence, honestly. And especially when I haven't had a lot of success the last 2 years. So our main focus, was just to suffocate the zone, and, throw your stuff down the middle, throw it in the zone, and let's see what happens. If hitters get hits off you, tip your cap, like, they got lucky. And I think just having that confidence in me and having that belief in me really helped me, with my command and, just overall confidence. I also train at a place called Push Performance here in Arizona. And, with them, I worked a lot with, we called it Command Camp. So that kind of just meant, making sure every throw that I'm making has a purpose. I think I got into the cycle of, hey, you know, I'm going to play catch to warm up when really, you know, that's your only time to get better is when you're playing catch. So, you know, with my plyo ball drills, my catch play, bullpens, you know, I think there was just more focus in what I did. And that led to me being more comfortable on the mound. And, you know, ultimately cutting my walks down a lot. And that contributed to a lot of my success this year.
So I think we could spend all day talking about what you were able to do for the Panthers this past season. But I mean, being named to the Conference USA All First Team selection, I think that speaks for itself. But just overall, talk a bit about the season you had, including what you think you were most proud of accomplishing for the Panthers.
Yeah, I think the season was great. You know, I think there was a lot of great moments throughout the season with the boys. For me, it was just trying to go out there, give my team a chance to win. I think that was the motto all year, especially for me, and just trust myself. You know, I think some of the best moments for us was, you know, when we're all super excited in the dugout, cheering each other on. I think, you know, that Western Kentucky series was probably one of the best series that I've ever been a part of as a team. I think, you know, helping the team, like just setting the tone on Friday, you know, setting the mojo for the weekend. I think that's kind of the role of the Friday night guy. And I thought that was the role for me, you know, and just, you know, start the energy for the weekend, you know, and that's what Fridays are for. So for me, it was just, you know, giving my all on Fridays, you know, give my team a chance to win every time I'm out there, you know, and be a resource for our team. You know, we had a lot of younger guys as well, you know, just helping them through, you know, navigating the college landscape, college athletics. You know, I think for me, I had 9 innings my freshman year, you know, and you get upset about it. But for me, you know, taking those experiences that I've learned from and passing those on to the younger guys, you know, was also super rewarding throughout the year.
What was your reaction when you saw the Kish walk it off in that Western Kentucky series?
Yeah, I was the bullpen coach actually. So
Really?
I forgot. Yeah, I forgot who was warming up, but I was on the walkie-talkie as the ball was hit. So my back was kind of turned, and then I turned around, and then me and whoever was running in from the bullpen. So no, it was a crazy series. You know, one I'll never forget for sure.
RBI double for Augustine Ramirez, Kev. Just letting you know the Braves game's going on in the background. But this question was provided to us by Jonathan Mayer, who simply wanted to know what was your overall favorite game to pitch, the magnum opus of you specifically last season that best showcased what you bring to the table as a pitcher.
Yeah. Honestly, I think Western Kentucky. Yeah, I think that showcased who I was. I also think you could say Kennesaw State. You know, I wouldn't have it up there because we lost the game, but you know, I think that was. I mean, you could also say Delaware as well. You know, I like strikeouts, and I had a lot of strikeouts that game, so that was pretty fun. But I think, you know, the Western Kentucky game. You know, you're facing a top 25 team in the country with a really good lineup. And being able to go, you know, 6+ innings, you know, and just battling, you know, no pitch in that game was easy. You know, there was no room for error, honestly. So I think for me, it was a testament to, you know, my resiliency, you know, my calmness on the mound and just competing with my best friends.
Talk about obviously how tough it was not being able to pitch in the Conference USA tournament, especially, you know, it seems like you were lingering something there for a little bit. Unfortunately, weren't able to get on the mound. You and Owen weren't able to pitch, and that was a huge blow for FIU. But, you know, how tough was that?
Yeah, it was super tough. You know, I'm glad I was able to go and support. But, you know, it obviously, really sucked not having me and Owen, ready to throw. I thought our guys really battled throughout the week, and I was hoping, a few more days and I could feel better. But, it honestly, it sucked. But I think, I turned it into, bringing energy on the bench. If you're not competing, you're cheering. So for me, it was just, trying to be the best possible teammate I could, even though it was a bad moment for me, a moment where, you feel like you're letting the team down a bit. But, for me, it was just, I'm able to be here and support my group, and I gave it my all in that. So
was there ever any chance you would pitch at all if you guys had gotten deep enough, or was it really just?
I think, it's kind of hard to say. I think if we made it to Saturday or Sunday, I would have potentially gotten out there. But, it's easy to say that now. But, I think it was trending in the right direction. But, we just couldn't get past Kennesaw State in that last game.
Yeah. So, alrighty, Kev, is it time for a quick news break?
Yes, it is.
Okay, then let's get right on it. Let's head over to my news break, looking at all things FIU athletics and just FIU in general, starting off with FIU football. As the accolades continue to come in for QB1 Kewan Jenkins, he earned a selection into the 2025 Walter Camp Player of the Year preseason watch list, as well as the 2025 Davey O'Brien Award watch list. Now, the Walter Camp Award is given to the nation's top player. Only 45 total players across the 136 FBS programs appear on this list, which will be narrowed down to 10 semifinalists in early November. Meanwhile, the Davey O'Brien Award is presented annually to the nation's best college quarterback out of 36 potential signal callers, with Jenkins being the only rep from Conference USA. The foundation will announce the 3 finalists for that award on Tuesday, November the 25th. Let's move on now to FIU women's soccer, as Conference USA has announced the 2025 women's soccer preseason all-conference team, and there is a Panther involved. Junior goalkeeper Valerie Restrepo was the lone selection from FIU following the Panthers' Conference USA championship title last season. Restrepo made an immediate impact in her debut year with the team, starting every match for the eventual champions with a .78 goals against average and 8 shutouts. The Panthers have also been picked to finish second in the preseason coaches poll, just behind Liberty, who they, of course, beat in the championship match. Lastly, the FIU volleyball ball program has unveiled its 2025 schedule. The Panthers are set for a non-conference slate featuring matchups against programs from the Big 12, ACC, and SEC, including Houston, Duke, UCF, Georgia, and, of course, UCG. They'll then dive into a 16-match Conference USA schedule that runs from September 26th to November 15th. This year, FIU will have the honor of hosting the 2025 CUSA Championship at the Ocean Bank Convocation Center from November 21st to the 23rd. FIU's home opener is the 305 Challenge, in which they'll take on Stetson on Friday, September 5th, then Drake on September 6th, then that matchup against UCF over on September 7th. So that was your look at Newsbreak. I actually do have an extra thing I wanted to highlight, which I thought was very cool. Kevin and I found out about it earlier today. FIU Athletics is doing something really cool on their website now, where so coaches and athletes that have been on the Paws Up podcast previously will now have direct links to those episodes on their bios on the FIU Athletics page. So if you went to, Kewan Jenkins' profile, for example, you scroll down here over his absolutely insane amount of accolades, and boom, you can actually check out the links to that, to our episode with him, episode 79. That was a great one. So we're very thankful for FIU Athletics. How many podcasts can say they have that on their official athletics website? So that's really cool. So thank you guys. So, all right, let's get back into some talk here. Kevin, take it away.
Yeah. All right. So after the season, obviously, you did enter the transfer portal. What went into that decision? You ended up committing, but last team you did pitch for was FIU. So you get drafted to the Rockies there. Just what went into the decision to explore other options at the end of the day?
Yeah, for me, FIU is home for me. With me not finishing the season from the pro side, we were hearing some things that, we didn't like. So for me, it was kind of just to get some leverage in the draft and kind of solidify my name in the draft. It was something that I didn't want to do, but, I honestly, they forced my hand a little bit. So, that was my reason for entering the portal. I'm glad my last, collegiate appearance is for FIU, and, I could get drafted as an FIU Panther because that's all I wanted along the way. So, it was a tough decision for sure, but, I thought for me and my family, it was the best move.
Talk about July 14th. You're in your house and you get the call that you're going to be a Colorado Rocky. You're getting drafted by your hometown organization. How cool is that moment?
Yeah, it was super special. I don't. It's kind of a something you dream of. You don't really know it could happen until it does happen. Honestly, I was sitting on my couch, with my family and my girlfriend, and we saw the name pop up, heard my name. It was just such a special moment for my family and myself. All the hard work, the time, dedication, and money that my parents have put into me and my career, and to finally, see that, it was just such a special moment for us.
How well versed? Well, they had to be your hometown team growing up, but how well versed were you with the Rockies organization, including the ACL Rockies, their minor league teams in Fresno, Spokane, and Hartford before getting drafted? And just how much homework have you done since then, familiarizing yourselves with all those clubs?
Yeah, I mean, obviously living in Denver, my family actually had season tickets when I was growing up. So we caught a lot of Rockies games in Coors Field. And then you always hear, in Denver, just, about the Rockies, the farm system and kind of all that. But, it's been awesome to kind of get your boots on the ground here, kind of just learn what makes the Rockies, from the foundation up. So it's been awesome to be around the complex, to watch some of the ACL games, and just support, the teams in Fresno, Spokane, Hartford, and Albuquerque. So, it's been fun.
As crazy as it seems, you weren't the only FIU pitcher drafted that night, as Owen Puck selected by Washington. Talk about the camaraderie there and the feeling of both your dreams coming true and only minutes apart from each other.
Yeah, it was super cool. Me and Owen over the year, we made such a special relationship with each other, on and off the field. We were talking throughout that whole day. Hey, what are you hearing? And for us, it was, with the MLB draft, there's just so much unknown, honestly. It's unlike any other draft. So you could truly hear your name at any moment, and you don't know. So it was super cool to see his name get called. I know he's, spent 4 years at FIU. He's got his degree from FIU. So that was super cool to see him, hear his name get called. I sent him a little text after, and it was awesome to hear my name 2 minutes later. So, it was a cool moment for us. We hang out here in Arizona in the off season together. So, it's kind of just a really cool moment for us.
Talk about now your experience with the Rockies. Are out there in Arizona where their complex is at. What have you been working on? And when can we expect to make that pro debut? Hopefully at some point soon.
Yeah. Right now we're just kind of, getting used to the org, learning the standards. Right now working on just building up again. I took some time off after the season, so really just focusing on making sure I'm healthy, feeling good. I have a couple side session bullpens coming up, and then we're throwing in the pitching lab down here, so to get some data and all that, and then hopefully the beginning of September, I could make my debut here in the ACL.
Well, you've pitched in cold weather, I'm assuming. Back in your high school days, you've pitched in warm weather. Which do you prefer now?
I definitely prefer the warm weather.
Okay.
It's takes a little bit more to get going in the cold. I think it's been a blessing to definitely pitch in those elements. You get to the big leagues, you get to April and May in Colorado, you don't know what's going to happen, or even October. So,
Yeah.
it's
October,
good.
baby.
Yeah, it's good to have that experience for sure. And I've been blessed with the weather the past year and a half, I guess. Being in Arizona, and Florida. I mean, it's pretty hot down here now, but it's nice that we're getting in early in the morning and out around lunch. So, dodging the heat best we can.
Alrighty, let's get into
looking at that. Yeah,
go ahead, Jake.
I just had one more thing to ask before we get to some fun rapid fire questions. I mean, obviously, so many things could change from here to then. But looking at the Rockies roster now, who are some of the guys you feel like you would be most excited to eventually meet, get a chance to learn some advice from?
Yeah, I think Kyle Freeland, a guy from Colorado. He grew up just down the street from me. I think that'll be super cool. Tovar, he's one of the best young shortstops in our game.
Mm-hmm.
I also just think, being around, just the big leaguers, honestly, watching their bullpens, all of them. I think, you can learn so much just from watching and being around them, and just being in their presence. So, I'm excited to just, work every day and be around, a great group of guys and, hopefully, make it to the big leagues.
I've seen a lot of TikToks recently about warming Bernabel and what he brings to the table in the major leagues. So, yeah, no, I think they got a fun roster over there in Colorado. So, all right, let's get into some fun rapid-fire questions here as we start to close up shop. Who was the funniest teammate at FIU, Easton?
It's got to be Brylan or Owen Puck.
Keeping it simple? Okay. Coach? What about Coach?
I'd say Whitson.
Really?
Yeah. He's got sneaky humor.
Okay, we'll take that. All right. Who would be the easiest member of the FIU coaching staff to strike out?
Ooh. Probably Coach Witten.
Oh, that's a great answer. I'd love to hear his response to that. But all right, where was the go-to spot on campus to grab a bite to eat for you?
I'd go to Diced, or around campus, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that's technically off campus, but yeah, okay.
Or you could say Cafe Bustelo.
There we go. Okay,
there's a good answer.
Okay. What is Diced? I have no idea.
Yes.
All right. Well, I guess this is a fair one. Yay or nay to baseball games in the snow? I think I know what you're going to say here, which is no.
Yay.
Yay, really?
Yay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, my dad actually took me out of school one day to go watch the Blue Jays play the Rockies, and it was actually snowing during that game. It was pretty cool. I mean, okay. How often do you get to play baseball in the snow?
That's fair.
Very rarely. Yeah. I mean, okay. What was the funniest reaction by a batter to a strikeout that you have ever seen? It could be at any level.
I think just the good old palms up with the look at the umpire. I think, I think it's pretty funny.
I like that. All righty. Best uniform you wore at FIU?
It's got to be the Vice uni.
There you go.
It's the Vice. We spoke with our next guest, who we can't reveal, and they mentioned Vice as well. My goodness, everyone always goes for it. I don't blame them though. So
I mean, it's a top jersey in college baseball.
I agree.
100%. I agree. That hat. I mean, I want to see everyone next season rocking that cap to baseball games at FIU. They probably will too. I feel like those things sold quite well.
They did.
Yeah. So, name an all-time pitcher you'd love to play a game of catch with. Can be past or present.
I'd probably say Nolan Ryan.
Cool.
Was he an inspiration for you growing up, or?
No, I just think, he's a great, I think he just shows that toughness, that I like. I think he's kind of a role model, someone I like to watch. I think you could also add Yordano Ventura. I love watching his highlights. I think he was one of the brightest young pitchers in our game before he tragically died.
Yeah. So, all righty, Easton, you've been an amazing guest, man. We appreciate you spending some time with us, but I got one more thing to ask you. If you have anything you would like to say to the fans, to FIU, to anybody in particular, the floor is now yours.
Yeah, I guess just thank you guys for everything. Taking someone from, so far away and making it feel like home. It was truly one of the best years of my life. I just had so much fun. I hope, this year can be a stepping stone to where the program's going to go in the future. I have a lot of optimism about the program and where it's going under the helm of Coach Witten. So I'm excited to continue to follow and to cheer you guys on from afar. So, yeah, thank you.
All righty. Easton, thank you so much for spending some time with us, man.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
All righty, we'll wrap it up here from Easton, Jake, and myself. We'll see you guys all next week. We have the guests. It's recorded. We're going to the world of basketball. That's all I'll say.
Yes.
There's two teams you got to choose from, so you're going to have to see which one it is. But all righty, we'll see you guys all next week. And as always, Paws Up.
Paws Up!